This is the SAU Report, a program featuring interviews with the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
Welcome to this edition of the SAU Report. I'm Deanna Young.
And I'm Julie Hillidge. Today we have a media roundtable with news coverage discussed by broadcast journalism students. With us today are Shelley Glover and Daniel Nickerson. Shelley, do you feel that television news reports at 6 o'clock and 10 p.m. are frequent enough and convenient for television viewers?
I do feel that that is a convenient time. At 6 o'clock, most families are getting home, preparing supper. They're all there together. You can watch the news. 10 o'clock is a good time. That's a good time for everybody to start relaxing. The night's fixing to end. A lot of people watch the news in bed. That's a lot of people's evenings. And it is frequent enough because Monday through Friday, you do have the evening news, and everybody knows that it is a continuous thing that is day after day. And so, therefore, I feel that 6 and 10 is a good time for news.
Actually, I may disagree on that one. I know that having to come home and get the kids together and everything, working with children, I know that children may need the news for their assignments at school, and it's often difficult for students to get together with their parents and everybody sit down and watch television at 6 o'clock or even at 10 o'clock when it's time for them to go to bed.
Yeah, 10 o'clock, it does seem kind of late to some people. Not to me because I'm a night owl, but most of the time 10 o'clock is a pretty late, especially for kids that are still in grade school. And
then again, though, you have broadcasts like headline news that have it every half hour.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, if the kids, if they need a news for assignment, they can always turn it on headline news. I mean, my family, we don't hardly get together until late at night. About 10 or 11 or so. So, I mean, we if I watch the news, it's going to be at 10. But if I miss the 10 o'clock, I'll watch headline news just to see what's going on.
And there are a wide variety of other mediums available as well to get the news, I think.
Yeah.
Daniel, do you think that some stations cover more information within their time allotment than the others?
Well, as far as the stories go, I've done papers and stuff in mass communications on different networks, and for the most part, the number of stories are the same. The stories may vary a little bit. There may be one or two more stories, but for the most part, they're about the same number.
Oh, well, I just feel that it also depends on, you got to look at, one might be filming from one area and one from another that are completely different of what news is going on. So, I mean, it just depends on how long each story is and how much coverage they did on each story. So, I mean, it all depends probably day to day on how many stories they have.
Do you think that these reports provide enough detailed information for viewers about topics of interest?
I do. I mean, most of the time, if you don't find enough information through watching the news, you can go through internet or the radio or the newspaper and find out more information, but you get the gist of it all just, watching by the news. So I feel that it is covered.
Shelley, which medium do you think is the most accurate in its reporting of news?
Most accurate? I would think that newspaper, since that you do have to write the article, you do have to get it, accepted before it's published into that newspaper. So I feel like probably the newspaper would be most accurate.
Dan, which do you think would be the least accurate?
Least accurate? Probably on-the-spot reporting. I mean, because, the news stations, they want to beat the other station, to the scene. They want to give you as much information as they can, whether it be accurate or not. So I would have to say just on-the-spot reporting. I mean, newspaper is very accurate. I mean, you have to go through an editor edits it, and so that takes out any flaws. So I would say on-the-spot reporting would be the least accurate, and newspaper would be the most accurate.
With print journalism, I believe that there are also a requirement of how many sources you have to back yourself up. And that may not always be the case with on-the-spot reporting.
Well, on-the-spot reporting, I mean, you don't have a report already written up. It's off what's your head, and so therefore, there's no telling. You might just base your opinion on something that might not be right to say. So it could go either way.
And who knows what sources you may be gathering on the spot.
It may be hearsay.
Some just innocent bystander that you just may happen to pick up off the side of the street who may really not have a clue what's going on. Daniel, which medium do you find to be the least biased in its news reporting?
The least biased? I'm not really sure. You might have a better answer.
Least biased? I think every medium is biased in some way because you have, in the newspaper, you have opinion columns, therefore, I mean, that's biased. And then on the internet, a lot of the articles you read on the internet is based on opinions. And so when people base their own opinion, they're going to, stick to one side or the other. Radio, their reporting is okay, but the DJs, most of the time, when you listen to the DJs, they say a lot of stuff that's biased. And television is probably the least biased to me because you really have to watch what you say on television. I mean, that in my opinion. But
I think that the internet itself as an entity is the least biased because you can find opinions in any direction, and so therefore it kind of offers a wider range for you to go.
But you also have to watch the validity of what you get
right.
on the
It's not
internet
always
because there's no guarantee that what you're looking on the internet is the honest truth.
True, and there's such an endless amount of what you can find on the internet. I mean, you could search for hours and hours and keep finding more information, and so.
Something that I've noticed that I've had to do in research in college is that you have to find sources that are peer-reviewed by those people who are experts in that particular field or on that particular topic to make sure that you get valid evidence and valid facts to support whatever information you're trying to find.
Daniel, which medium do you think has the fastest response time in its reporting?
Well, I would say TV because, once again, on-the-spot reporting, whether it be accurate or not, they'll get you, the base of the information, what just happened. They may be incorrect on how many people have been killed or something. They might say 8, 1 minute, and then they say 32 later. They want you to, they want to get the fastest information they can to you. But as far like on sports and stuff, I find that I can go to ESPN.com or NBA.com, for basketball scores, just and to the minute action, just real quick. So.
Something that I found when I was watching the news reports on the Santana High School shootings that recently occurred, I found that was one of the things that all the networks were trying to do, was trying to get in on the story all at the same time and to provide the fastest information. And then, the next day when I read the story in the newspaper and read it on internet reports, I found that the story had changed just a little bit. Not quite so many people had been injured or more had been injured.
Which reporting is all competition. Every station is trying to compete with the other one. And so whoever can get there the fastest, get the story the fastest, that's what they're after. So a lot of it is just, all competing.
Shelley, which news media do you think provides the most reliable information as far as that goes?
Reliable? Probably the newspaper. I mean, the newspaper, like she said, you have to have so many sources, stuff like that, so that would be the most reliable. All the others, to me, probably go on hearsay, opinion-based, stuff like that.
Do you think that as a source, the internet could provide a wide variety of accurate information?
It could, yeah, because there's so much information found on the internet that, who's to say it is accurate or it's not accurate? So there is a lot of information in so many various different topics that you can find on the internet.
Daniel, do you think that if someone were to use the internet to find some information that they would need to target their searches, maybe to go to specific sites? For instance, if you're looking for health, go to the American Heart Association. If you're looking for a particular health issue, do you think that those sites would provide better information than just pulling up a search word?
Well, of course, because that site's emphasis is on health. And so you can just go there and you can find any topic you want about health pretty much. If you're not really sure, what you want dealing with health, just type in health. But there's endless stuff on the internet. And it's so quick, They have health sessions on TV, like maybe a 10-minute during the news or something, 5-10 minutes, something like that. But it's not as much information as you would get off the internet, of course.
Shelley, in production terms, which form of televised news, either national or local, is more visually stimulating?
Well, when I watch news, I would think the national, just because overall they have more money. They have more money to spend because it's national news. And so, therefore, they have better lighting, better backgrounds, better anchors, everything. So, in my opinion, it would be the national news.
Daniel, do you agree?
Yes, I also think the national news. They want the best of the best. I mean, you see headline news, they have the best graphics. You know,
They have catchy
just all
graphics,
these
more-
major networks like ESPN News, they'll have the best, you know, visual aids, graphics, whatever. Whereas you know, local channels around here, they're limited somewhat because of money or resources, but I would say that the national level is a lot better in that area.
As far as accuracy, though, goes, do you think that national or local news would report that information more accurately?
Well, I would say it would be about the same probably. On broader issues like something overseas or something, you know, of course the national news would probably have more information. Because I would imagine that most of the local stations around here, they would get some of their information from a national broadcast place.
An affiliate.
And so,
Shelley, what are the advantages and disadvantages of using the various types of media that are currently available, such as TV, radio, internet, print media?
Oh, God, there's so many different advantages and disadvantages. Advantages of like using the internet or even a newspaper article or something like that, you can always go back and look at it. You can always pull it up on your computer, print it out. You have it written down to where if you can't remember something, you can go back. But by listening to the radio or watching TV, you don't have that opportunity to go back and see if you got your information right. Say you were taking notes and you wrote something down wrong. You know, that's something you would never find out, and it'd be misunderstanding. So
Something I found that maybe when I'm riding down the road and I'm listening to the radio and the news on the radio, I might hear something in passing and go, wait, what was
you
that?
don't completely catch all of it, and then
Right.
you never hear it again, so you don't know exactly what it was.
That, and I found that radio reporting tends to be very, very quick. You move from one topic right to the next, and so it takes, as opposed to a television broadcast maybe where you have visuals, graphics, just different people's interviews, different things like that. I found that I will remember things better if I watch a television broadcast and I'm hearing the audio than I will if I'm just listening to it on the radio.
plus on internet, you know, you can just highlight it and click print, and you know, you have it right there, you know, forever. So.
Have you found news gathering through various media to be a useful tool in your college studies, either?
Yes, I've had to do several composition papers this semester, and I'll go to the internet. And I'm not much of a book person. I hate, you know, researching books and stuff, and I'll just go to the internet and I'll look up, you know, whatever I need, and it's right there. And there's so many different sites with that same subject that I can go to, and internet's really helpful in that.
Shelley, as a college student, which medium of news reporting do you find to be most useful when you need to be informed?
Well, I mostly use the internet just because it's more convenient. I can use it at my own time, anytime I want to, and it has all the information that, I mean, say I miss a 10 o'clock news broadcast, most of the time they do have their own websites, and I can click on it and see what was on the 10 o'clock and pull up that news story. And so I use the internet most often.
I found that using the internet for college assignments that I have, it is sometimes a very, very quick way to get information. For instance, if I'm doing a last-minute, you know, health paper or something for my personal and community health class, I can click on the internet, and actually some of the professors do recommend that you search the internet in different sites like Ask Jeeves or Ask.com, type in your keyword, and then go from there.
Well, also, whenever you're on the internet, you might find an opinion, but it's something you never thought of it that way. You know, and you gather all different kinds of opinions on the internet also. So
Sometimes it is difficult, though, to differentiate between fact and opinion
It is.
on the internet. You have to really watch what you find. Daniel, to what demographic groups do you think news information is written or broadcast?
I'm not really sure.
The news, it varies. I know most older people, I'd say probably in the range of 30 to older usually watch the news more often because I know I'm only 20 and I'm still not that interested in the news. Only when I have to or something's going on that I know that I want to watch. But most of the time you don't see little kids watching the news. They might sit there and watch it. They don't really comprehend what's going on. They don't understand the whole concept of it. So I would say more is generated towards the older crowd.
Daniel, have you found that as you've come to a college age, that perhaps maybe you've become more interested or less interested in the news aspect?
I would say more interested. I just want to see what's going on. When I was at home, my parents would always talk about it, and I'd hear the news from them. So I really wouldn't have a need to watch the news broadcast.
Just secondary report.
But I'll find myself every now and then clicking over to headline news just to see what's going on in the world.
Shelley, how do you feel about the recent concerns that news coverage is becoming more violent and graphic in nature?
Well, I feel like he was saying earlier, on-the-spot reporting, I know they're trying to rush and hurry to get to the spot, say a crime scene or an accident or something like that, but a lot of the times like school shootings are occurring more often now, and they're showing such graphic things on there that, it could be, people, the audience watching it just tears their heart out, and I know that like in an accident, you don't need to see the body being taken off on a stretcher or something like that, and a lot of times you do see that, and what's to say that the family hasn't found out yet or other friends or something like that, so they really need to kind of watch and edit maybe some things, what it is on.
Yeah, they should do that out of respect for the family.
Exactly.
Because if one of their relatives or something was in a car crash, they wouldn't want to see them taken off on a stretcher in a body bag. So they should do that out of respect.
I can see where it would be alarming maybe to the younger generation if they're watching a news broadcast and they see this earthquake and they see people being pulled out of the rubble just in terrible condition. I can see where a child would become very alarmed.
It could traumatize them. It might even have a huge effect on their life. So, especially if it's somebody that they knew or it's something that they could relate to. So.
But on another note, say, it was a drunk driver, crashed into a vehicle or something. They could show that. That could show the, what happens when a person drives drunk. That's reality. As far as earthquakes and stuff, I don't think they should show what happens to people. Because that's just a natural disaster. But people can learn a lesson. I feel from seeing a car crash or something, or from a drunk driver.
Without the visual, though, how would you get the same emotional effect if you didn't show the scenes?
Well, that there goes back to respect. You should respect the family. Because I would not want to see my family, taken away on a body bag, on TV, for everyone to see.
Yeah, that would be the last time you would ever see, that person.
That would be the last image.
And that would be the last memory you ever had of that person.
I can see where that would be.
Now, I like, visual aids is good. On the spot reporting, you have to have, some view of what happened, but I think it should be edited to a degree.
And it goes along with more and more today. It's just not on the news, but in TV shows and everything else, they are getting more violent and more graphic. Yeah. And so, we're saying we want our kids to sit down and watch the news and be more informed. Well, there's some things on the news I wouldn't want my child to see, or a young kid to see.
Especially during ratings month. They're going to go to more about sex and violence because that's what draws people in. It's sick enough, but that's what gets people's attention is stuff about sex or stuff about violence. And I wouldn't want my kids to watch that kind of stuff. They don't do it all the time. They're not even that bad, but it has increased over the years.
Do you think that maybe children's watching programs on a regular basis that are filled with violent acts and different things like that, language, sexual content, do you think that would affect the way a child would view a scene such as an earthquake scene or some scene where a crowd is being beaten back by the police or something like that in a mob situation? Do you think that would make a child desensitized to that?
Yeah, I think it could in a way, because if they're so used to seeing it, it would not affect them as in they've never been around something like that, and they would be used to seeing it, and so I think it would Yeah.
cause the desensitization. Daniel, with regard to local news stations and coverage, how do you feel about the professionalism of local news coverage compared to national outlets?
Well, local, I mean, of course they're not going to be as great as the national level because they have, the best of the best. Mm-hmm. But I feel that local, they get people on there that can relate better to the viewers that are around their area. Mm-hmm. I mean, as far as accents, vary around the country. And I know down here, networks from Shreveport, they have people on there with Southern accents. And some people feel very strongly about that. They don't want to hear their news from a Yankee, per se. And I mean, that's just a matter of opinion. So. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that when I talked to my parents about what were their opinions about news broadcasts, that was one of the things that they emphasized was that they wanted someone who didn't sound like they were from a particular location in the country. They wanted someone who sounded very neutral, who had a handle on their dialect.
And that's how it is on a lot of the world news. You can't, there's probably people from all over the world, mm-hmm. but they're all stationed mostly in California, New York, places like that. But you come to, Arkansas, you can definitely say, oh, that person's from Arkansas, That's just how it is.
Daniel, in terms of entertainment news, what kinds of stories should be considered newsworthy and what should not?
Well, that's a big subject, dealing with all that Princess Di stuff, and the paparazzi and all that. Well, I do feel that they tap into the lives of movie stars a little too much. For example, Robert Downey Jr. has been busted for drugs and for several times. I mean, sure, you're as a movie star, as a
public
figure, you need to be a role model for people.
Right.
You shouldn't be strung out on crack and all that stuff. But I don't think that they should, cover it to the degree that they have. I mean, it's on the news all the time just about that specific thing. And I think that a lot of that, may make them go to drugs and stuff like that just because people being in their stuff all the time.
Well, also has to say that it's so accurate that that person is on drugs. A lot of times they do blow things way out of proportion. Mm-hmm. The Inquirer,
Oh, yes.
you can't believe a word that, they write in there. So I think that, a lot of kids do have celebrities as role models, and when something like that is so exploited, they don't know whether or not to believe it or not. And so I think it just all depends.
And I think that children look up to certain celebrities and maybe sports figures as definite role models. And when they see that those sports figures are acting in that manner,
Mm-hmm.
that they feel that is acceptable behavior for themselves.
Well, there are certain aspects of the entertainment industry where those people are directed to the children. That's their market. And so I think that going into that, they should know that and be aware and carry themselves in a decent manner.
Shelley, the recent Primetime Wonder, Survivor, sent ratings at CBS soaring from the time it first came on the air. Do you feel that networks do a good job of promoting their own programs during the news broadcast, or do some programs receive more news coverage?
I think it depends on what kind of show it is. Survivor was a big hit. It was it was a neat show to watch. But there's some shows that they give too much fame to, they try to bring it up too much. But Survivor, I think they did give it enough.
What do you think, Dan?
I think they covered it thoroughly. I mean, it was a wonder. I mean, it's a really good hit for that station, and I think they covered it thoroughly.
One of the problems that I've noticed primarily with local television news broadcasts is the teleprompter system. Do you think that something could be done to improve that situation?
Yeah, a lot of times if you're really sitting there watching, you can tell that the anchors are watching the screen. You can see their eyes or they move their head. And so I feel that they need to work on that. Maybe, move it on their own or something. That way they can follow it on their own pace and not have to follow the screen.
All right. Well, thank you, too, for being on the show. We'd like to see you back again with this issue of the SAU Report.
The SAU Report is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.